Good morning, folks. Today I have the privilege and the honor to represent Keith and Vicki Zylstra. We're at their feedlot over here in Osceola County, Iowa, and we're going to visit with Keith a little bit today about the history of the feedlot here. You can see the cattle barns and the cattle behind us here. This property is situated on approximately 52 acres. Will be surveyed to be exact, of course, but Keith's going to tell you a little bit about the property and so forth, but I just want to say what an honor and a privilege it is to represent Keith and Vicki. This is an outstanding feedlot. We sell as a company many feedlots and large cattle operations, and you don't usually find a feedlot of this kind of caliber. The facilities are so well maintained. Every building on the property is just top notch. He's got lots and lots of concrete, obviously fence line feed bunks and everything a feedlot has, but he's got so many amenities that go with this feedlot. Sometimes you don't have the option to have an outstanding set of buildings on the property, to have so much concrete on the property. He's got a heated shop. He's got the feed pads, the concrete feed pads. He's got both, as you can see, cattle monoslope barns. He's also got some open cattle yards with lots of concrete. But before we get into all that, I just want to visit with Keith a little bit. Keith, if I understand this right, this farm has been in your family for 3 generations. Is that correct, Keith?
That's correct, Mark. My grandfather and grandmother purchased the original property here. They were renting land nearby, and like every farm family wanted to own their own. This original property came up for sale in the early 1930s, and my grandparents, this was the first property that they owned, and the farm grew and built from there.
You know, unbelievable, but if you think about that, Keith, in another 11 years, roughly, this farm, or 10 years, this farm would be in the family 100 years. And today they get the opportunity as a new buyer to create their family legacy here with a feedlot. And you know, it's so neat to see your retirement age, Keith, is obviously why you're selling it. And it's so neat to see how families through generations, almost a century, have kept the property and the land in your family's name. Your mom is still living. She's 90-some years old.
Yes.
What an opportunity for a new generation to come through now and take a look at the property and be able to purchase the property. Tell me a little bit about your life, Keith, and your family and kids and grandkids and what you guys have.
Sure. Thanks, Mark, and thanks for the introduction. I actually grew up on this property here. My parents raised our family of 4 sons. I'm the youngest of 4 sons. I was the only one of our family that had an interest in staying on the farm. My dad and I worked together here for years. My dad passed away approximately 15 years ago, was in his early 80s, but was still working with me. We had transitioned most of the operation by that point. I got married a little over 40 years ago. My wife is a retired school teacher. We live a few miles from here. We raised our family between working here with me on the farm, and we raised our family a few miles from here on an acreage. I have 3 children, 3 grown children. All 3 are married. I have 2 sons and a daughter. Our oldest son and his wife have 3 children, and our daughter and son-in-law were blessed to have triplets last August.
Oh, wow.
So we have 7-month-old triplets.
Little lack of sleep there sometimes.
A lot of lack of sleep there.
Yeah.
And our youngest son and his wife have 1 child, a little guy that's a little over 3 years old,
Wow.
or 4 years old, excuse me. So we're very heavily involved helping our kids raising grandchildren, and we're pleased to be doing that. And as you mentioned, Mark, I'm 65, I'm retirement age. I don't have a son who is particularly interested in the feedlot portion of agriculture right now. We've made a lot of expansions here over the last 15 years, and for those reasons, we've made the decision to work with Zomer and Company and put this property up for sale.
Well, Keith, it's an honor to represent you. You know, I always say in the cattle industry, it's so amazing of the great people. I always say if you've never been from the Midwest and you've never experienced the honesty and integrity of the cattle industry and the people that work in the cattle industry, from the people that feed them to the people that bring them to the table, it's an industry that is so highly respected. And we have the privilege to sell many feedlots, and we have the privilege to work with many great people like you and Vicki and your family. And it's just so, I always think, intriguing when you sell a feedlot that's been in a family for 3 generations. And you know, Keith, you didn't only buy it and take it over from your grandpa and your dad, but you improved it. I mean, you talk about what's all on here for amenities, it's unbelievable. Just tell me a little bit, Keith. We're standing by your monoslope barn here, and folks, just when Keith references here in this video, he owns property on the north side of the blacktop, and he also owns property on the south side of the blacktop. So you would be buying this all as one combination, as one facility, like I said, with the monoslopes, with the heated shops and everything that are here. You'd be purchasing all of that. But Keith, tell me a little bit about this building right here, if you would.
As a person grows in business, you always have goals and you have things that you want to try and accomplish. When I purchased this from my dad, it was a 1,000-head feedlot that needed a lot of improving done, and I always had a goal of having some type of a confinement building or confinement facilities. Approximately 15 years ago, we were faced with the decision to be able to cooperate with the DNR and the EPA, either to close the feedlot down as it was or expand it. I was 50 years old then. I didn't want to not accomplish one of my goals, and so I made the decision, along with the financial help of the bank that we've been working with, to expand the feedlot operation to 2,500 head, to put up the 2 monoslope buildings, improve the outside facilities with concrete, and the permit that we operate under requires us to have full containment of the runoff, which we've accomplished. Even in last year's floods, we had no problems at all. It's built to manage the type of flooding weather that we had last year. So it was one of my goals to do this. Well, when you do that, then you need more facilities, such as the large bale shed that's over to the side of the property, a 72 by 240 foot building. We needed a heated shop. My dad had built a shop building, a bare building in the 90s, and he said, well, someday somebody will make this a shop, which I did. It's in-floor heat. It's a 60 by 85 building with an office in it. We kind of headquarter from there. We've tried to make improvements. I watched my grandpa and my dad make improvements. Of course, in today's economy, the improvements are so much larger than watching them make their improvements. But I learned from the improvements and the growth that they had that we had to continue to grow and to continue to make this an operation that was going to be viable. And so one of my large goals was accomplished 15 years ago when I expanded the feedlot to 2,500 head. With the addition of these confinement buildings, of course, required more help. I have a great crew that works with me to make this all work, and everything has kind of grown in sequence, including the feed pad, the feeding facilities, the equipment. Everything is here that's needed to comfortably operate this feedlot.
You know, I was just amazed, Keith. We get on a lot of feedlot properties, and you know, just like where we're standing here, you got your 100 by 300 and 100 by 400 foot monoslope buildings that were built new in 2012. We're standing on a concrete alleyway all the way in front of the bunks, drive through on both sides inside the building, so you have bunks on the south side and the north side of the building.
Yes.
So you got under the roof bunks on the north side, you got outside bunks here with the concrete alleys. You got a great working facility with your Titan West hydraulic chute. You got a whole shed there for sick cattle and everything where you can maintain them. One thing we haven't talked about, Keith, that is huge factor in these feedlots is you have 2 great wells here. So all the cattle are supplied with well water here on both the south side and the north side. There's 2 sets of wells. He also has a generator that runs the entire property in the event that you need it. And he also has real water here.
That's correct.
So you know, it's just a lot of benefits that you put a lot of years of planning into doing this right. And the other luxury is too, Keith, you have the wonderful monoslope buildings, but you also got about 1,100 head, I believe, in the east cattle yards on the outside here. You got 156,000 bushel grain bin storage with the grain bins that are here. You got concrete feed pads, like you mentioned, for all the concrete. And one thing we haven't talked about, Keith, between family land and your land and other land that you rent, there's access to manure rights here for the people around it. You have access probably anywhere from 500 to 1,200 acres.
That's correct.
For manure application. You have lots of neighbors who'd like to buy manure from you if you have extra, but you've been able to utilize a lot of it on your own operation. But there's opportunity for feed inputs here, for silage and things, because you have access to land base that is all close within, you know, a half a mile to 10 miles. Which is a huge factor. But if you want to elaborate on any of that, Keith, feel free to do that.
Sure, I'd like to. When we expanded this operation, I actually had a couple neighbors, brothers who are now retired, and they came to me and said, man, we'd love to have some of that manure. And I said, okay, then we need to work an arrangement so that I can get corn stalk bales off of your land, bring the manure back and build your land, build my base for access to manure. Relationships change and things like that, but over the years we've had very good luck with neighbors wanting manure, and we have had no problems at all working new relationships. A person called me the other day that I'm working with who has been a little bit in contact with me. I know him quite well, and he knows that we're thinking of the sale of the feedlot. And he said, what am I going to do for manure next year? I said, the same thing we've been doing now. I said, you'll have the opportunity to work this just like we are now. So those relationships exist. It would be very easy to have access. We need about 1,000 acres to bale corn stalks off of every year, and about that much land to apply manure on. Between the land that our family has access to, that I can promise a long-term relationship with, and other neighbors around here, will be no problem at all to have access for corn stalk bales and disposal of manure.
Which is huge, because if you're an interested buyer in a feedlot, one of the first things you think about is where am I going to go with the manure, and what am I going to do for a feed source. And you know, Keith, I just want to say this. It's a true honor and a privilege to represent you and Vicki, because
thank you.
You know, we get on a lot of feedlots, we get on a lot of facilities, and you know, I can't stress enough in this videos, folks, the quality of this place. You know, Keith, you think about it, everything you built in the last 10 years, and if we wanted to say 10 to 15 years, you built a heated shop during that time frame, you built the 2 monoslope buildings in that time frame, you built your, you drilled new wells, you put the cattle working facilities up, you put your 248-foot long bale storage shed for all of his round corn stalk bales. He does have some outside, but that building holds a tremendous amount of bales. You got your huge machine sheds over on the south side of the property. You know, one thing we haven't talked about, Keith, you're right off Highway 60, and you're on a blacktop road. You're not on the gravel. You got great access for pots and cattle coming in and out. And you know, you really can't stress the quality of a place like this unless they come and see it.
Well, thank you for saying that, Mark.
And I really mean that, Keith, because, you know, it's just quality. It's just
I appreciate you saying that. A comment, and I stress all the time for myself and for my employees, we have to keep our place clean. As you mentioned, we're right by Highway 60 on a busy blacktop road, which is great for access, but that means we're always under the watchful eye. And I always stress we have to keep things clean, because it's just a better perception if we keep our place clean and if we do a good job of that.
And it also shows you care about the industry.
Well, thank you for saying that. And
yes.
I didn't just try to quick clean this place up because you guys were coming today. We hear the comment a lot when I say where our place is. Well, I can't imagine how clean you keep it. That must be a lot of work. And it is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, yep.
But it pays off, and I think it says something about what contribution we're trying to make to our town and our community by being in the livestock business. We were fortunate enough about 10 years ago to host a governor's visit here. And somebody said, you got to do a lot of work to get ready for the governor.
No, you didn't.
I said, well, we got to trim things up a little bit, but I said, I'm pleased to have been asked to show the contribution that a livestock operation makes in the economy of a community. And that's what I would like to stress. That's been as much of an accomplishment for me as anything, is what we've been able to do by being in the livestock industry and the vast amount of things that involves.
I agree.
I think that that's important to stress.
It is. And you know, it's the old saying, Keith, trust isn't something you just get. Trust is earned, right? And in the industry of the cattle business, you talk about trust. You sell your cattle on word, you buy your cattle on word, trucks show up and payments and wires transfer, and sometimes those cattle are harvested before you even receive the check.
Yep.
And it's an industry of trust. But what I would say is this, Keith, you know, just reflecting a little bit on your property, I mentioned this to Blake and our team in the office. You know, when you come and look at a place, you soon know if that place looks like that all the time, or if they hurry up and manufacture a cleanup, you might say, to sell it. And by all means, you can see, I've been coming by your place for 30 years, Keith, and it's just set up so beautiful, and it's done a great job. One thing we haven't talked about, Keith, is there's about 17 acres that is, I'm going to say, the filter basin for your outside cattle yards over here to the east. So if they ride by to look at your feedlot, they're probably not going to see that. All the monoslopes obviously are contained in the monoslope buildings and so forth. But like I said, folks, he's got an office attached to the heated shop. You got some great facilities of storage for equipment inside. And you know, the nice luxury about this, Keith, is it's a working, running feedlot today.
It is.
And it's going to stay working and running until you decide that you connect with the right people to
Right.
form their new legacy. But he's got great help. Some of his help would love to work for some new owners,
Yes, they
I think. Obviously, if the opportunities all align and the stars align. But I just want to say, folks, if you're interested in expanding your cattle business, whether you have a large feedlot now and you're looking to expand, whether you're a dairy looking to raise your heifers, whether you're somebody that just wants to continue a generation of family life and legacy like Keith's doing, this is not a place you're going to want to miss. Because I can tell you this, Keith, the factor we haven't talked about is in 2025, the building cost of what they are today. I can assure you this, if you had to go replace all of what you have here in the last 10 years and build it today, it would scare you what those numbers
Yes, it
would be.
Yep.
And I've always found this out, in a very renowned large cattle operator has told me many, many times. He said, Mark, the expensive thing is to build one. The right thing to do is buy an existing one because it's up and operational and it's functional and all the thought and plannings went into it. And I always think when somebody's building a new one, Keith, the things they don't think about is wells. The things they don't think about is the infrastructure of the water lines. They don't think about the wiring. They don't think about all the stuff it takes to make it flow and to make it run. And you look at just concrete cost and building costs today where they're at. It's an opportunity.
One of the most fun things I've had about this was the expansion. I've always enjoyed being a part of construction of new things. And the people that I brought in to help me with this very large expansion project, and I worked very closely together on all of the things that you just mentioned, Mark. And as we were working here, a person that was helping me said, how many wells do you have? I said, I have one, but I said, it's a good well. And he said, you know what? He said, I'm just going to give you advice. He said, get a hold of a well driller, get another well on this place, have at least two. And that was very good advice. I have two very solid wells. As you mentioned earlier, water supply here is not a problem. Actually, 3 sources between the wells and rural water, which we use as a backup. We do not depend on it for watering the cattle. The 2 wells with large 5 horsepower pumps in easily maintain what's needed here.
So Keith, one question, and we'll end our video here a little bit, but how's Keith feel at age 65 about passing the baton?
Well, it's been a very interesting experience to get to where we are today, Mark, because I spent a lot of my life thinking of what are we going to build next? What are we going to expand on? What are we going to improve? And you feel like you've been climbing for a long time, and then all of a sudden, okay, now I'm 65, want to make sure I have some years left to enjoy my grandchildren. What do we do to not just fall over the edge? How do we continue on and level off and slowly work our way down from the workload that we've had? And we've had a very large workload for years and years here between our livestock and our farming and our family, and we had hog buildings that we recently have sold from the operation. So I had a lot of things to manage. So I spent most of my career thinking about what's the next step, what's the next piece of equipment, where do we pour cement next? But now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I hope I have something here that I've prepared that's very usable and very viable for another family, another operation to expand on and use.
I agree.
And I believe that you and I agree that we have done that.
Yeah, I would agree 100%, Keith. And you know, it's always I always think when you look at a place, it's not always just about the quality and the location and the kind, but it's also about the planning that went into it to do it. And you can see you didn't just draw it on a piece of paper one night and say that's what we're going to do. You thought it out, you planned it. I mean, how you move cattle, how you work cattle, how you process cattle when they come in and out. All that stuff comes into effect on a feedlot, and that's one thing it takes years of experience to do, right?
Well, and we went to a lot of places when we were going to expand, and I visited with people and I interviewed people, and I said, okay, what did you do that works? What did you do that I shouldn't do? And I sought a lot of that input, and all of that helped in this. I didn't wake up one morning and think, this is what I'm going to do and we're starting tomorrow, and I would never take credit for the whole expansion here on my own. It involved a lot of people that had knowledge in different areas than me. And it's very important to always, always stress that it's the help that's been working beside you day after day
100%.
that makes the place
100%.
work. This
You know,
doesn't
Keith,
happen with just me.
Keith, it's ironic that you say that. In our line of work also, you know, you get to deal with me, and you get to deal with Blake, and you get to deal with Bryce and some of our staff. But at the end of the day, it's all of our staff that makes every company successful, because if you don't have that, you can't do business without them.
That's correct.
And we are so blessed in the area we live, Keith, to
Yes,
have
we are.
great people, a great industry to represent. And yeah, I just, Keith, I want to be honest, I seen a little tear in your eye when I asked you about passing the baton. And yeah, we appreciate the opportunity to represent you. And I just want to say
thank
thanks.
you. And thank you for being willing to represent us.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much. You bet.